Hey Scrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, and we hope you are doing well. Thank you for tuning in every Wednesday at 1 p.m. We try to do our live Facebook update, which of course we take, copy, paste, save right to YouTube. So if you miss it, don't worry. You can always check out our YouTube channel where you'll be able to see our other weekly reports as well as our Sunday prices and other videos that we post to teach you more about the scrap metal industry. Don't forget, if you're looking for more updates on prices, you can always download the iScrap app today to your iPhone or your Droid, where you'll get push notifications sent right out to you. We have push notifications that remind you of certain things. We let you know when we're doing our weekly report. This way, if you have nothing to do or you're taking lunch, you can always tune in. We let you know when the markets are up. We let you know when the markets are down. If there's something that you want us to let you know about, please let us know and we'll make sure to put it on there, talk about it, and we'll go from there. So let's talk about some of the markets that we've seen over the last week, and today we're going to start with the catalytic converter market. Of course, we always reference rrcats.com, where our team is going to give you the ability to get quotes via serial grade, serial number, photo grade by sending pictures to us, and we'll be able to give you more quotes on your cats and hopefully continue to gain your business. And maybe even if you have a positive experience with us, you continue to use us or you refer us to your friends. Now, the catalytic converter market over the last week is one where you kind of want to, monkey see, monkey do, close your eyes because it wasn't that pretty. In the last week, we've seen the three major markets for catalytic converters dropping for platinum, palladium, and rhodium, as many of the commodities have dropped over the last 7 days, including gold, silver, and copper. Now, platinum over the last 7 days is down 8%. That's a humongous number, one that we really don't like to see. If you've ever tuned into any of our weekly reports, we like to talk about stability. We like stable markets. It makes it easier for buyers and it makes it easier for sellers. When you have markets that take large dips, like this 8% platinum dip, 3% palladium dip, 3.5% rhodium dip, week over week, that makes it so people that are buying the materials are going to take those percentages and probably add a few percent on to give them a cushion. Maybe 8% becomes 11%, 3% becomes 5%, 3.5% becomes 6%. And they're going to widen their margins because they don't know if the markets are going to fall further or if we're going to have a bit of an increase. But regardless, if you were buying something, why would you want to buy it with the potential of going to turn and sell it and breaking even? So these are the things that you want to be able to tune into. Again, if you tune in and you have the iScrap app on your phones, these push notifications are things that we'll let you know about. Now, when we're looking at these markets, a lot of people ask us for catalytic converters. When is it a good time to sell? Where should we look for the markets to be to know that it's now the time to cash our cats in? Now, we have a very different opinion than many people. We like to get material in and ship material out, and we've given that same advice to people year over year for the last 9 years, since 2011, just talking about what's going on with any type of market, whether it's copper, brass, aluminum, stainless steel, or any other grade like gold. So when you have your catalytic converters, if you got your car, you made money on the steel, you have your cat, think about how much money you're looking to make extra or what your realistic expectations are. One thing that we could tell you when you want to learn and deal with catalytic converters is volume means something. If you sell one cat at a time because you want to be able to flip your dollars real quick, that's one thing. But when you have 3, 4, 5 catalytic converters, the team at rrcats.com will give you a free shipping label. A, that saves you money. B, upgrade your quote depending on the grades of cats. So the nicer cats, the more volume you have, the more money you can make. So rrcats.com can continue to quote you. And we have market news that goes out monthly along with updated prices that is on the website at rrcats.com. So if you have any other questions about catalytic converters, you just let us know. Now, unfortunately, what we've seen in the market really has been a very tumultuous time this week, with the markets jumping all over the place. Copper, for instance, if you were a Patreon supporter, you would have seen multiple alerts coming through on the copper market this week. Monday morning, we woke up and the market was down 8 cents. Then it recovered 2 or 3 cents in the afternoon, but still was down. Tuesday morning, we saw the market jump 5 to 6 cents, and we're like, oh, this is fantastic. We erased all of the losses from Monday. We're about even to where we were, and that would mean that the scrap yards would see the dip, maybe not immediately change prices, but think about it and then change them after a couple of days. But then roll to this morning, Wednesday the 23rd of September, we saw the markets dropping 9 cents per pound, dipping below $3 on the trading side of things, which will trigger a large sell-off, which will trigger a large price decrease across the board on copper-bearing materials such as wire, brass, bare bright, or any other type of copper. Now, with these markets dropping almost 10 cents today, this is definitely not the news that we like to share on our weekly reports, but things that we've heard about. We've seen a bit of an economic slowdown. We've seen a couple of relapse waves coming in England, as well as other areas of the world seeing increased COVID cases. India has had massive outbreaks. These are things that contribute to the manufacturing, the consumer demand, but at the same time, we see conflicting reports. I read about the London Metal Exchange, or the LME, and they always monitor the level of copper inventories as well as a slew of other commodities. These copper inventories have dropped to 15-year lows, and you might say to yourself, Tom, with the market dropping with the inventories for copper dropping to 15-year lows, why aren't we seeing an increase in the copper market? Well, this is in the days of the 1980s or the 1990s or even the first half of the early 2000s, where things were fairly predictable. Oil went up, metals went up. Oil went down, metals went down. Metals went up, well, that was because oil went up. But those days are long gone, as commodities have become more or less another stock that's traded, whether it's corn, wheat, pigs, milk, cows, copper, aluminum, steel, palladium, gold. These are all now just grouped into one big commodity base, generally based out of the Chicago Commodities Exchange. And those different levels are monitored in different ways and give you different gauges on how the world is. One problem that we have right now is that the Chinese really don't share a lot of their inventory levels. So we don't know how much material they have sitting in stock, where they are such large manufacturers of all consumer electronics throughout the entire world. It makes it very difficult to know, do we really have a copper shortage, or is it a shortage on paper only, where inventory levels could be very, very high? One thing that we've talked about in the past that I'd like to mention today is how different larger trading companies have gotten into the commodity world and have started to trade in a very manipulative and funny way. How are they doing that? Well, let me give you an example of one specific company, which I won't name. Two large warehouses right next to each other, and generally the rule is that you can't hold commodities for more than 30, 60, or 90 days, depending on what the commodity is. So, when you have two warehouses and you can't hold it for, let's just go with 30 days, after 30 days you pick pallet 1 up, you move it into warehouse 2, and now it's moved and it's under a new warehouse, and it's technically been legally moved. Well, 30 days later, that pallet is picked back up and brought over to the warehouse where the commodity levels have changed, but they've still been able to play with the market. If they need to ship things out, they have the ability to do that. If they don't, because things are slow, they have the ability to move it and manipulate the system a little bit. And unfortunately, us in the scrap world, we really see a big hit because the traders and larger companies are playing with markets in a way that we can't combat, know about, or compete against to really give us a fair advantage on where the markets are going to be moving. In the past, we've always been able to predict when markets are going to go up and when markets are going to go down. Traditionally, in the summertime, going into the early fall, we've seen the markets dip as many people are going to be taking time off, not being as productive in the manufacturing side of things. And then when the fall hits, we're going to be able to see a bit of a market increase in demand. Looks like we have a question that we'd like to answer.
We have a couple questions about shred and steel.
Shred and steel.
Both from Ryan and Jamie. They asked, is shred lead and steel going to go up some more? And then the second part of the question is also how much of an increase are you anticipating for aluminum?
Sure. So the Ryan and Jamie, we appreciate the questions. We'll kind of mold them into one, and then we'll get back to you with an answer. Steel prices right now, we've seen some prices on the East Coast jumping $20 to $30 per ton, but that has not applied to every region of the East Coast. A little bit of the Northeast, but I haven't even seen that here in my scrapyard. It's kind of hearsay, but we haven't seen it really materializing. With oil continuing to fall and such a glut being out there, while we did hear about 1.5 million barrels falling week over week, we've seen that so many of the OPEC countries, as well as the larger producers of oil and gas in the world, have slowed their production roll down. And don't forget, you probably hear it in the political world, the U.S. has become one of the largest, if not the largest, exporter of natural gas and oil in the entire world. Those things will cause the steel and iron prices to decrease, which is we have seen over the last year and a half. But right now, they're in a bit of a supply shortage because manufacturing has picked up so much, and because the COVID situation has had a little more definition and clarity, more material's been getting exported. So we're hoping to see an increase coming in October. It's a little too early to see that. Hopefully a week from today on the 30th will give you a better idea. On the aluminum side of things, listen, my crystal ball is about as foggy and cloudy as could be recently. Anything that I could predict, I can't see clear through it. So if I can't see it, how do I predict it? So I'm going to give you my best, most educated guess. For the first time in 18 months, we've started to see a bit of a market moving with the aluminum side of things. Markets jumping 3 to 5 cents on lower grades and a potential 5 to 10 cents on higher grades of aluminum. So I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of advice. Whether you use them or not, that's up to you, but I'm going to share them with you nonetheless. Different grades of aluminum you're going to want to cash in because you're not going to make that much extra money on. Aluminum sheet or old sheet, depending on where you are in the country. Same thing, two different names, tomato, tomato. Those are things that you might want to cash in when you get it, okay? Insulated aluminum wire. If you're looking for something to do when you're slower during the winter, this is an item that you might sell for 15 to 30 cents a pound throughout the United States. But instead of selling it as insulated aluminum wire, put it into a garbage can. When it's really cold out or you have nothing to do after the holidays, that's something that's worth either stripping by hand with gloves on, of course, or using a stripper because you can double or triple your money with your aluminum. Clean aluminum wire is a really high grade because you have to figure that it was used as a substitute to copper to have electricity and current run through it, which is going to make it a much higher grade. The electrical current wire is going to be a very high grade. And if you can learn about different grading of aluminum, 6061, 6063, you can always learn about those through iScrap, or you can always talk to your scrap yard to learn about those markets so you have a better insight on them. That will give you a little more clue on where the aluminum markets could be going. But we have seen some of the higher grades increasing 5 to 10 cents. Your old sheet between 2 and 4 cents overall, but we're very happy considering we saw very little to no market movement on aluminum other than down over the last 18 to 24 months. Now, steel prices, as we mentioned, they should be going up, but we haven't seen a hard indicator that that market's going to jump, as many of the larger facilities, not only in the United States, but also in Canada, have been filling orders and taking them out, and they haven't been able to ship them as quickly as they would like. Example, trucking rates across the United States right now have increased between 30 and 50%. Why? More people are at home. More people want to be able to order things, whether it's through Amazon or Walmart or any of these other online retailers, and shipping rates have increased because people aren't driving as often. So even though gas is cheaper because people aren't on the road, but who is on the road are these truck drivers. They're moving loads and they have the ability to dictate what they're going to charge because so many people don't want to leave their house, don't want to leave their neighborhood, aren't going to the malls, and aren't going shopping like they normally would. And that's one of the big reasons that we've seen the trucking rates increase. Looks like we have another question we'd like to attend.
Yes. Frank has a question.
Great. Hi, Frank.
Do you give better prices when you have a lot of weight of clean ACRs?
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. I think that most yards, including ours here in New Jersey, Rockaway Recycling, would always give you better pricing. But you and I might have very differing opinions on large amounts. You know, it's nothing against you. It's just about the weight. So to answer the question of what we would consider a large amount, at least 500 to 1,000 pounds of material would be considered a large amount at the scrapyard that we own here in Rockaway, New Jersey. But if you have 100 pounds, that might have taken you a couple of months to get to taken apart if you were cutting ACs out of window units. But you have to figure your definition of large is always going to be different than scrapyard's definitions of large. You know, scrapyards could be dealing with industrial chillers, large air conditioners coming off of buildings. Those are going to have a much higher volume of ACRs in them and is going to be able to give the scrapyard a little more or a little less buying power. But we thank you for the question. Overall, we've been happy with the markets. While we have seen gold prices falling back to around $1,900 an ounce, we have read varying reports with gold climbing as high as $2,500 an ounce in the coming months. I have read multiple reports about the US dollar exchange, which is extremely interesting, and we're reading them based on how the outcomes of the election is going to go, which we won't go into our political opinions, but what we have read is that a lot of commodities and the US dollar could have a very unfortunate decline depending on how the election goes, and that's going to dictate where some of these prices go. Things that we've talked about in the past. When you inject 7 trillion with a T dollars into a U.S. economy, along with the trillions of other dollars that were just made out of nowhere like this and pumped throughout differing world economies, that's going to make the dollar in your pocket cheaper than it was before, which means the U.S. dollar could be going down if there's more U.S. dollars out there compared to other currency. That's where things start to weigh in. Also, the confidence in the U.S. markets is what drives a lot of the currency exchanges, so you need to pay attention to what the markets are, how they are, and then it moves you forward from there. It looks like we have another question.
Yep. So Richard asks, how is yellow brass doing?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Richard. I believe that the national average for yellow brass is around $1.15 to $1.25 today. We've seen a few prices, $1.40, $1.46, but we've also seen a few lower than $1, around 95 to 98 cents a pound. Overall, figure yellow brass $1.15 to $1.25. Scrappers, this is Tom from the iScrap app, and don't forget, every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m., we'd like to do our weekly report giving you an idea what's going on with the commodities market. We love hearing your ideas, your opinions, and anything that we can do to help you make more money with your scrap. Please let us know about these things. If you have catalytic converters, you can always go to rrcats.com to get quotes. If you're looking for more information on different materials, tune into our weekly report, or every Sunday we have different prices that get posted on YouTube as well. Scrappers, this is Tom from the iScrap app. We appreciate you tuning in. Scrap often, scrap safe, and until next week, we'll scrap you later.